All right, then here with the latest international film and TV news is Arise correspondent Judita Da Silva, who joins us live from London. Okay, I see the pink. I see you, girl. How are you doing today? Hope well.
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So it's rainy here in Lagos. There's a bit of traffic, but we're doing our best to get the people going. But let's start off with TV. We touched on this story already today. I had Rotus talking off the back end of the business, the implications on the business end. But it looks like the power of the people has worked, because after the backlash from the industry and the public, Disney and the ABC network are returning the Jimmy Kimmel Show to air after being indefinitely suspended. So how did this all unfold? Tell us, Judita.
See, this has been a pretty seismic week, like you said, which we've been tracking. And you see from speaking to Reuters, there are multiple threads to the story. So we know from the suspension, then there was the backlash, then there was the shock, because it's all around this idea of free speech, but what it seemed like state-sanctioned censorship, to the point where when the tide started turning was when key figures on the Republican side started saying that, no, this feels like a police state. This is not something that we endorse, because effectively you pulled this show because a person on TV said something you didn't like, and he used the power of the American government to influence the FCC to lean on a network heads to shut down a TV show. So that is something that you read about in like Stalin's Russia. So that's why everyone kind of started saying this is not the America we want to move towards. Because if you're going to police in this way, guess what? Republicans say things that people don't like as well. The axe will fall on us. So then what then happened is probably what you discussed with Reuters, is that, like they say, you want to move the needle, affect money. Disney saw their bottom line affected to the tune of over millions, because their share price dropped, because people canceled their Disney Plus subscriptions in such numbers the website crashed. You had people protesting outside their offices. You had people boycotting everything ABC. So it's not so much like they've had a moral enlightenment. What they saw is, while you feared even though they deny it, the big merger that's happening with Nexstar, Sinclair, and Disney affiliates happening, the FCC not sanctioning that, your protection of money in one sense also jeopardized the money in the other sense, which is the consumers, because the consumers spoke and said they didn't like it. So Disney had to come forward and say that we made a decision that was in the interest of, quote, not inflaming a already delicate situation. But guess what? Jimmy Kimmel's going to be back on air, and he's going to be back on air tonight. Yeah. So that shows that you've shown the people that at the end of the day, no matter how big the power players might be, if the people do not want your product, the company will fall. Yes. So if they move together, you will listen, and that's what's happened.
Definitely. I can't wait to watch tonight's episode. It's going to be interesting what his monologue is going to include. But is it fair to say that the domino effect of suspending the Jimmy Kimmel Show was more far-reaching than Disney, which owns the ABC network, were expecting?
Definitely, because what also people didn't really speak about that much is Bob Iger, who's the head of Disney. His wife is big time in journalism, and she sits on the board for this very influential journalism or nonprofit organization, the International Women's Media Foundation. And they were going to host the annual event at Bob Iger's home with his wife. And when this whole thing happened, where you basically made a decision that sanctioned policing free speech, this whole organization is very pro-free speech for women and non-binary women, people in journalism. They were started having conversations in a house that we don't really feel like we can host this event at your house. Wow. That would be such a terrible look for people on their level. I think then it started to hit home that, oh, the ripple effect is going to hit me personally. It's hitting my wife. It's hitting the money of the company. So you have to move. And also, I think what this is going to show, which is something they didn't gamble on, is when Trump said, oh, now first Colbert went down, he said Kimmel's next. Kimmel went down, then he said NBC follows suit, take down Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers. If this continues, what NBC will see is that if they try to make a move like that and bend to pressure, people who subscribe to Peacock will react. People who go to Universal Studios amusement parks will react. So they've now shown people a proof of concept that you can rail against a machine and companies, big money, will bend to your will. That is something people never wanted people to realize, because once the consumer knows I control the machine on a level, as long as we move in numbers, you're moving in a different landscape. So they've started a domino effect that unfortunately has blown up in their faces in a way they never actually anticipated it would.
Oh, wow. Well, let's move on to movies now. I'm following on the story yesterday about Tom Holland sustaining a mild concussion while filming the new Spider-Man film, which meant he had to stop filming. But now Sony has made a decision on how to proceed, haven't they?
Yeah, so they had that meeting that we talked about yesterday, and then they came through with a decision today that they're basically going to shut down all filming for 1 week. So while Tom Holland recovers, because they say they're being overly cautious because, as he said, he sustained a mild concussion, but he's been seen doing other things like charity work for an organization with his brothers. So he is well, but for the physical demands of the role, they want to play it super safe. And also, should then, God forbid, anything happens down the line, they cannot be seen as being negligent. But with that whole week, there is nothing. I mean, this is a big operation. It's like a Marvel Studios character film. So that's a big decision. But they said that, okay, that it's something that they should be able to reel from. They've spoken to the director. They've obviously planned out what the production is going to have to be to catch up on those 7 days they've lost. But they say in a week they'll be back.
All right. Okay. Looking forward to having him back, and of course the movie itself coming out, because I'm a huge fan of the series. Well, Sony has said that this will not cause a delay to the July 31st release date next year. Is that a plan that they can realistically stick to? Because I need to put it in my calendar today.
They can, if that's what happens, as long as nothing else comes out of left field, it's feasible. Because when you think, okay, let me put it in perspective. There are sets that I've been on. I'll give you an example. Like James Bond. There was a scene in one of the James Bond films where just M walks down a bridge in London. That's it. Ray Fiennes as M walks down this bridge in London. Shaitan, it took the entire day to shoot that. It was like £1 million in insurance and ridiculous numbers for him to shut down the bridge, Central Bridge in London, and walk down this bridge. It was the whole day of shooting.
Wow.
So when you think of what goes into a Marvel film, you know the kinds of what it means that, for a day we didn't do anything. So if it's just a week, they're going to have to go hell for metal and do very long days and do it. But if this stretches out beyond that, let's say Tom Holland goes in for a medical and they say he needs more time, they're not going to make that mark next year. They just won't.
All right, then fingers crossed. Well, let's talk about, the fact that, Disney definitely has had a precarious time on the TV side of business, but it should be more smooth sailing on the movie side, because they have the release of it. They have released, rather, a new trailer for their upcoming Mandalorian movie. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, this is called The Mandalorian and Grogu, who we know this is the kind of story behind it is like one of the most popular characters in the whole Star Wars universe, are the Mandalorians. When you think of Boba Fett and all the rest. So, and also they call him Baby Yoda, but you know what it's about. So this film is going to be the first standalone cinematic movie from Star Wars since the rise of Skywalker. And I don't want to trigger myself by talking about what went down with that film. So I think they're hoping that this arguably is undisputedly the most popular IP they've launched out of the Star Wars universe for Disney Plus. Because remember when the first season came out, that was the big push to really get subscribers to Disney Plus, and it worked.
Yeah.
But season 3 was kind of not as warmly received as the first 2 seasons. There was a lot of politics behind the scenes with Gina Carano, and that happened with what was happening with her political views. It was just like a very dicey time. They're hoping that with Jon Favreau directing this, that it's going to be a throwback to the way what people loved about Star Wars movies. It's got Sigourney Weaver, it's got Pedro Pascal, it's got Jeremy Allen White, And hopefully from the trailer we've seen, Jon Favreau knows how to make films of this nature. And it will just get popcorn in laps and bums in seats.
Yeah. Well, The Mandalorian, I mean, just like you rightfully said, was a hit show for Disney Plus streaming. And now it is moving into that big screen. But could that TV popularity give the Star Wars franchise a hit in the cinemas? Because it's been a bumpy road with fans in recent years as we wrap up the show today.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things I will have to wait and see, because if you look at even the social media response, it's very 50-50, because a lot of disenchantment has set in with the loyalists. You're talking the uncles and grandpas and dads that have been with Star Wars since the 70s, the loyalists who really respect the original trilogy. It's like there was a magic to Star Wars that has dimmed in recent years, and probably the worst moment for it was Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
So obviously they've given enough time for the bitterness to kind of be diluted. And hopefully, because this is a separate character on its own that has proven to be popular, it is something that can create some healing for the franchise.
Definitely seeing the way ripple effects can work backwards as well. Thank you so much, Juditha. Definitely probably like the best part of the show. I always look forward to hearing your thoughts, because I love the movies, I love streaming, I love the cinema. Thank you so much, Juditha. See you tomorrow.